If Dewprism was a full course dinner, Dual Princesses is the decadent dessert. Team Easy Game Station were obviously getting their feet wet in game development, and I've got to say, it's sublime for a fan game. You follow the adventures of either Princess Mint or her sister Maya through a series of original levels. You bash baddies, you gain treasure and more spells. The game lives and dies by its feedback loop of attack, kill, jewels, points, which mostly works. The game oozes enough charm to forgive all repetition of combat. And of course, it's great to see the characters all over again. So, after the title screen, you can choose either Mint or Maya. Mint is intended to be a brawler with support magic, but in practice, her magic really wipes the floor with Maya's. Her basic punch is a small area of effect, which means you don't really have to be lined up exactly on the enemy's plane to hit them. Now, Maya's basic attacks are a short machine gun blast from her book, but unlike Mint, they don't have a lot of forgiveness to them. You have to be on the same plane as the enemy to hit them, and you get stuck in the animation while firing, so if you aren't careful, enemies can hit you while you're shooting. Now, Maya's intended to be a magic user with support projectiles. See, her mana bar is longer than her health bar, while it's the other way around for Mint. But her magic, for the most part, doesn't match up with Mint's. Mint's holy magic is a short machine gun blast, but it does more damage with more projectiles than Maya's basic attack. And it doesn't commit you to the animation the same way that Maya's does. You shoot and can move immediately after. Maya's holy magic is a cone of attacks. They hit more enemies than Mint's, but they don't do as much damage. It takes 3 or more blasts of Maya's magic to do the same damage of one holy blast from Mint, which is a little frustrating when Maya is so dependent on her magic, and all you have is this early in the game. Mint's wind magic is a large but narrow gust of wind that clears the screen and does a fair amount of damage. Maya's wind magic drops a pumpkin on the enemies. Very cute, but its area of effect attack has a very narrow radius, plus it needs a second of charge time during which you're vulnerable. The enemies can move out of the way during that charge time, making your pumpkins miss. Mint's electric attack is really useful. It's a fast dash attack that hurts any enemies you pass through. It's quick, and you can spam it until you run out of mana. Maya's electric attack is purely for bosses, one boss in particular. It's a cloud that has a super long charge time, after which it does a ton of damage. It's utterly useless for common enemies. They'll have moved away from it long before it goes off. It's not even that effective on bosses that move around a lot. Mint's fire attack beats Maya's, hands down. It has a short charge and then it almost covers the screen with damage. Maya's version fires a small ball with a long charge time, which then explodes. That's fine if you can predict the enemy's movement, but less so if you don't have their timing down. More likely, you've spent mana on an attack that's going to miss. But Maya's darkness attack beats Mint's. Mint's version summons a singularity, which is really good for crowd control. They get sucked in and get damaged. It's great. Maya's version, though, summons a small scythe-bearing witch who will attack whatever you do. And you can recast it to get up to 5 witches at once. They will act as a shield to buffer enemy attacks away from you, and their combined might will do more damage than you can. This is my favorite spell for Maya, hands down, because it makes up for all her shortcomings in gameplay. The final spell that both sisters get is fucking Meteor. It's the same spell for both of them. It does a ton of damage, but you can't really control who it'll hit when you cast it. I prefer attacks that target the enemies I want to hit, but I don't know. It's just a pet peeve of mine. Your mileage may vary. Mint has her mighty jump kick as well, but it's not as overpowered as it was in Dewprism. It does have a few frames of invulnerability though, which makes it good for a starting attack. The game itself goes through 7 levels, which are the same for both characters. The beginning is the Start of Venture, which takes place on the ship that Mint and Maya left on at the end of Dewprism. You descend to the bottom of the ship, where the whale of Dewprism is waiting for you. It uses the same wave attack that it did in Dewprism. See, here? And can I just say that I love the sprite work. Every character and enemy looks completely on model as they did in Dewprism. The Polywogs, the Seed Shooters, the Tigers, and the Hedgehogs. The artists at Easy Game Station really nailed it, and I have to compliment them for it. It's a shame that it's mostly just those 4 and the new mushroom enemies who you'll fight most of the time, but they definitely look the part. Anyway, after the whale fight, we're off to the Forest of Perplexity, and if you know why, let me know in the comments because I can't read Japanese, and there isn't a completed translation patch. You'll pick up wind magic on your way through the level. The boss at the end is a golem powered by a magical jewel. It mostly uses a dash attack like Mint's electrical magic. None of the bosses have a gimmick to defeat them, just whittle away on their hit points. Eventually they'll fall. Next up is the Ignition Desert, and here is where you'll spend most of the game. It's long, it's sandy, and it's the least memorable of all the levels. Here is where you'll get electric magic. There's little side areas that have these extra items and health pickups, which are wonderful because your health points do not regenerate like your mana does. This is a score attack game. You have infinite continues, but you lose all your score every time you die. If you don't care about score, and I didn't especially, you'll have a great time with this game anyhow. The boss at the end of this level is a bullet hell insect creature. Maya's electrical magic is mostly meant for it because it doesn't move at all. Lay down the cloud, boom, and it's done. Mint can just rush it back and forth until it dies. Next is a fun gimmick stage called Riding in the Raft. You're on a raft so you can move around as if you were walking. Our friend the whale is back for another ass swamping. When you go out, you get fire magic immediately, which is very useful for Mint, but not so much for Maya since the whale is typically out of range by the time Maya's firebomb goes off. The whale has a bubble attack this time, but doesn't have infinite continues. So, boom. Once the whale is taken care of, it's off to the capital which is forgotten. The architecture is very reminiscent of the Ys games here. You'll pick up darkness magic hidden across a canal in the corner that you might easily miss. The boss here is a dragon, not Wylaf as his model doesn't match. A new dragon. He blasts you with wind and then fires fireballs that home in on you. But Maya's darkness magic is especially useful here, as her minions will block his shots and do damage to him. Mint's just gotta tank it herself. Onward into the castle and we enter the puppet play. We start by picking up the meteor spell. And then in the throne room, we meet up with our old pal Rue. But he's not doing so well. Yes, this is a boss rush, as Rue assumes the forms of each of the bosses we've fought already. There's plenty of food around, but you should try to avoid it until you really need it. Rue turns into the golem, the insect, and the dragon. Fortunately, we don't have to fight the whale again, and it's probably good for the whale too since there's no water in the throne room and it'd just be flopping around on the floor. Once his dragon form is down, we're off to the castle top for the last performance. Yes, our boss is Fancy Nell, riding on a giant cat bat. She has a lot of projectile and area of effect attacks with her arrows and stars. But once she's done, that's it. It was all some kind of misunderstanding. Mint and Maya let her off the hook. Then we get our credit sequence with some well-illustrated scenes of Mint and Maya returning to town. And the whole family and Prima Doll are there to meet them. It's very sweet and keeps with the spirit of the game. So that's Duo Princesses. Its battle system, with the sprite characters on polygonal backgrounds, would be refined later in their follow-up games, Racketeer and Chantilly's. The game itself is only an hour per playthrough, so I'd say it's worth your time. You can find the game on Google. 8 out of 10 Fancy Nell stars. Thanks for watching.